It's still early, yes, but
it's early guy.
That's right.
We're all its early guy.
You got to be its early guy because what do you feel like is going to be the catalyst to get the bats going? Because another offenseless showing basically for your Astros in a 3-1 loss to the Giants. They're now sub 500, sitting at third in the AL West behind, yes, the Rangers, but also the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I don't know why that upsets me, but that upsets me. Right? Like just the Angels being, even at this very, very early juncture, the Angels having a better record than you makes me mad. And it shouldn't. It's irrational. I understand that. But I'm going to sit here in my irrationality and be upset that the Angels have a better record than you. And it's because you're not able to swing the bats and hit the ball and get runners on the base paths and bring them in.
Yeah. Look. Let me ask you both this and our lovely listeners. 713-246-10, and of course, YouTube, Twitch, the whole 9 yards. It's early. We've just agreed on that. But I have questions. I got questions. The early questions. All right, early questions is what I'll call it.
Okay, early questions. Go ahead.
I've got 3, 6, 7. I got 7 questions for you, based on the Astros. I've got 7 questions.
I'm looking forward to all of these questions, all 7. Well, I'm going to say that the over/under is that. Yeah, I'll probably be interested in
4 good ones.
That's right. The 713 said Willie Whistle sounds like a bookie. Absolutely.
Oh, that's true.
Absolutely. Yeah. Willie Whistles. But I'm interested.
This sounds like an old name from the 70s.
Yes. Willie Whistles. I do wonder, what
Figgy's
kind of bookie.
reading the Willie Whistles book.
That's right.
That's why they call it juice. That's what.
Willie Whistles was a bookie back in the 70s.
Right. Can you say bookie?
Bookie.
Willie Whistle said, "Watch your knees."
Run away fast. There's Willie Whistle.
Willie Whistle said, "When I said every Tuesday, I meant every Tuesday."
I didn't realize that was the Wednesday energy we were bringing, breaking kneecaps and such, and teaching babies. But that's where we are.
Willie Whistle drive a pink Cadillac.
Yes.
Oh, that's a different Willie Whistles.
And Willie Whistles doesn't have a cane. That's a walking stick.
That's right. That's right. Why is Willie Whistles wearing all those rings? All right.
We turned Willie Whistles into a bookie.
Oh, God.
Willie Whistle got 10 wives.
All right, I feel like we need to get to the questions.
All right, let's get back on track.
I got 7 questions. We're going to be.
All right, let's talk about the Astros and getting these bats going.
That's right. Sean's taking the under. Willie Whistles, we'll check on that. Did this look like a club waiting for someone else to do something?
Can you explain a little bit further?
Like, I'm watching this game. I was texting with you guys a little bit because
I don't think I texted back.
It's okay. I get it. No, not really. I think y'all were at the steak night warm up.
I was at the bar. I don't know what Figgy was up to. He might have, as far as I knew, he might have been reading to the kids all day.
No, I was at the house.
Okay, very good.
All right, let me explain. So I'm looking at this squad. Obviously, as you know, they lost 3-1.
Correct.
As you may know, their offense was putrid again. I think that's 9 runs in 5 games.
That sounds correct, but I will double check to make sure.
They had a season high in hits, 7. They just look like every time someone was stepping up. Go ahead.
Sorry, no. When you said the season high of hits, which was 7. I was sitting next to T Mill at the bar. I looked up at the TV when they show the final lines, and I was like, wait, when did all those 7 hits happen? It didn't even feel like it.
3 double plays. Oh, 3 double plays.
Yeah,
which is one of the things, and that's kind of what ties in with my first question. Every time someone stepped to the plate, it was almost as if they're obviously they're focused and they're trying to get a hit, but they're waiting for someone else to do something. They get a hit, and boom, double play.
Okay.
They come up with runners in scoring position late, and
with 2 outs on there,
and nothing happens with 2 outs. I think it was the 2, 3, and 4 batters coming up in the 9th inning. Nothing. It's a lot of times that's the case with teams. Well, we'll get going. Somebody will get this thing going. It's like they're waiting for someone else to do it. That was a question I had.
I don't know that I have a great answer to that because, yes, I guess in a way, yes, they're all waiting for someone else to do it, and I imagine specifically Jose Altuve is waiting for
doing it
because he's
not the only one.
He's got a 400 batting average, and I think the next closest guy was Jake Myers with a 200. batting average, and then everybody else is either in the hundreds or below.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like nobody's really doing it. And even like you had the one game in your opening day where it felt like you built innings, right?
Yeah.
You had guys that, here's a hit and here's another hit that could actually bring someone in. Other than that, I think I made a joke at one point. I think Chaz McCormick got a hit, and I turned to T. Mill and I was like, well, that's your hit for this inning.
Yeah.
Because
that's what I'm talking about.
That's absolutely the way it feels.
So you do kind of feel that even though you didn't recognize it.
Yes. It's very isolated. And it really just all comes back to, nobody's able to like make really good contact and find spaces. Even the instances where you have a dude, and when you have a dude, making good contact, like obviously Christian Walker has done in a pretty solid way, they're not finding gaps. You're not finding the spaces for the ball to get down. Right. And so it's weird because it feels anomalous. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is not getting on base in the same way. I know that's the cleanest way of saying it, but everybody's having different struggles, but it all amounts to the same thing, which is struggles.
Exactly.
Which is very weird. And it makes me almost, weirdly enough, it eases my concern because I'm like, what are the chances that everybody is off in the same way at the same time?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that, all right? Another question for you. And again, we're not bashing them. We're not saying this or that about the season. We're just asking questions because it's early. My next question. Do they miss Alex Bregman already?
I mean, probably.
Miss him as far as what, though?
Maybe as it refers to
the offense?
Maybe as it refers to just someone being able to wake up the bats, so to speak.
Okay, because he's been known for starting off slow.
I know that, but also known to help the pitching staff, help other batters. Get the guys, keep the team focused when things are going bad. Do they miss Alex Bregman already?
I mean, probably, but I don't think. I mean, yes, the notorious slow starts are there, but I do wonder if he, and maybe this is adding too much, like giving too much credit, because we've been in that place where you look around and you go, you start building the guy up. We've talked about the ways in which he's helped Hunter Brown and so on and so forth, and various players on the team. But he does feel like a guy where he had the respect of the team. Maybe he could say something or galvanize the guys to get them in a place where that rejuvenates the bats. But that might be adding too much credit. But I don't know, maybe, because we talked about Christian Walker probably being one of the guys that's best situated to step into that role. But it's still very early, and he has his own things that he's dealing with. Like, I don't know how easy it is for him to step in and immediately be that kind of voice in the if they're trying to find some of that. But yeah, 832 is right. You're probably missing Kyle Tucker way more than you're missing Alex Bregman, as has been evidenced by the fact that...
Well, maybe in terms of, like, the actual hitting and all. I'm talking about everything.
Sure.
Like, just everything. All right.
But, I mean, the hitting is what we're talking about in particular.
Sure,
it doesn't seem like dudes are necessarily hanging their heads, per se.
Right.
But you're just not seeing the production.
I would say right now, I would use this right now. It's early. I think right now it's a little bit early to kind of have that type of conversation. Because especially from looking at last year, how they started and then where they end up finishing. But I think it's early for that part. As far as the bats and all that stuff, I don't think they miss Alex Bregman right now.
All right, I got another question for you then. Are there too many holes in this lineup?
I mean, as of right now, it sure looks like it. But I think that's a good question where you look at who are the guys that are going to be tent poles, like are going to be the established guys in your lineup, and you would have hoped that Isaac Paredes would be one of those.
Yeah.
And he just seems like he's just been just barely off in a lot of aspects. I know he hit the double not yesterday, the night before, and he had a hit in this one as well. But like you would anticipate that he would be one of those guys that's relatively consistent. Christian Walker's another guy that you would look at to be relatively consistent. I was hoping that Yainer Diaz would find a little bit more consistency, especially as a dude who last year had so much responsibility, both catching and then going and playing first base as well, and all the added responsibilities. I do wonder if, and last year also he had a lot of new pitchers that he had to learn over the course of things, like as a catcher, right? Which I think there's a level of mental strain and stress that also requires. I would have hoped that coming into this year, having a little bit more stability and consistency would have helped him be more consistent with that. This just feels like it might be one of those weird anomalies where a lot of people are having their down stretch, and it all happens to coincide at the beginning of the season.
Well, that ties in with another question I have then, and you just mentioned one of the names. What if Jeremy Pena, Yainer Diaz, and Cam Smith are just okay? They have their normal year that we've we've become accustomed to. We've been kind of counting on them stepping up. At least Pena for sure. Certainly Cam, there's optimism. And Yonner with another year under belt. A lot of people are saying maybe he need. What if they're just meh?
That's going to be a problem.
It's a big problem.
Like, it's just going to be flat out a problem.
Big problem.
Like, your pitching has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
It absolutely has, but you're not going to get anywhere if you're not able to put up some runs on the board. And I don't think that you can do it just off of the strength of Altuve, Paredes, Alvarez, Walker. I mean, I think that it's fair to assume that those guys will stabilize to some degree, maybe the lowest of those being Paredes, because there was some projections on how his particular bat would increase with the dimensions of the ballpark. But I think you could say Altuve, Alvarez, Walker, known commodities, proven guys at the plate, but you can't be a three-hitter lineup.
Well, exactly. And that's what I was going to say. Like, you're accustomed in the major leagues to giving away maybe 1 or 2 outs at the bottom of your lineup. You're used to that. But if those 3 guys on top of Brendan Rodgers and let's say,
don't say Chas McCormick, because apparently he's hitting 500 on the year.
Whomever the center fielder is, that's 4 or 5 outs you're giving up. You can't give away 4 or 5 outs.
No.
Can't do it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Especially because even with those guys at the top, they're not going to – it's not going to be every day, and then Jordan has a penchant for being hot and cold at times. Like, and we're seeing a cold stretch as of right now for all of them. Yeah, no, you're not going to be a good team.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it that flatly, but it's just impossible. You need to be able to find a certain level of offense.
These are what ifs. These are pertinent questions, even though it's early. And you just mentioned another question I had. Very basic, very straightforward. What's up with Jordan?
I don't know. And it's really weird.
What's up with Jordan?
Because it's not just that he's batting sub 100. Like, literally, it's a 0.63 batting average for him. His OPS is a 325, which looks like a batting average, which is really problematic. It's also that we see him with juicy pitches keeping the bat on the shoulder. And then yesterday you saw him expanding the strike zone.
And sliders and breaking balls down the middle where he would normally crush.
Yes. But then on top of that, like, he's also, you saw him yesterday expanding the strike zone and like swinging at a pitch that was never on line to be within the strike zone. And it's just like, this feels so anomalous for Jordan, a dude who is menacing in the batter's box. Like, he's not even looking like himself where he's making pitchers pay for giving him a hittable pitch. And that's the thing that's really weird.
You tend to read too much into things when players are slumping. So I fully acknowledge that I might be reading too much into this. But even his body language seems a little weird. Sort of, no, he's not exactly Mr. Excitement anyway. Pretty straightforward. But he just kind of seems like he's not altogether into it, like he normally is.
And one of the questions that I have is something that we talked about with Rafael Devers of the Red Sox, where he is starting in a terrible, 15 strikeouts thus far to start the season, where we've talked about, hey guys, playing the field kind of helps keep people keep in the flow of things. Are we seeing a Jordan who maybe is dealing with DHing consistently all the way through?
Yeah,
like, is that a possibility here? And is that something
he's going to be in left today? I believe.
I have not seen.
I think afternoon.
To that regard.
I'm just using logic. Altuve afternoon game after they play at 3 today.
Sure.
It's about time to mix him up in there. Just my projection. Just my.
I can see that, and maybe that's something that helps jumpstart him in some ways. But yeah, now because of how poor you've been, and of course it's 5 games out of 162, it makes me wonder, like, all these other things, like, what are the things that could be factoring in here? And that was one of the things that I came up with. Jordan,